Hello, everyone, and welcome to Product-Led Growth Leaders. Today, we're going to be having a cool conversation about training people, leading people, teaching people how to lead and think of things differently. I've got on the show today Yvanovich, and he is a serial entrepreneur, a book author, and he is a finder of formulas that work, is how I would put it. See if he agrees with that. And he's got his current book out, Business as Unusual: How to Thrive in the New Renaissance. Rick, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me, Thomas. And before we start, before you hit me
Yes,
with any questions,
yes.
I'd like to share a core belief that I hold
Please.
really dear. And that is we all have the potential to be architects of change. So let me explain that. So in this world that we all happen to live in at the moment on this big blue planet, it's defined, this era that we're in, it's really defined by constant transformation. And our task is not just to keep up with what's going on, but to actively shape the path forward. And I believe that every day our actions, whether they be big or small, they shape our future. And as we discuss whatever you're going to discuss today, and I know you're going to throw some curveballs at me, I want everybody listening to remember this. You are your brand, and every single decision that you make is part of the unique story that you are crafting for yourself. How you react, how you adapt, and how you innovate in the face of all of this change will define your story and your legacy. Now, this belief, inspiring each of us to aim for consistently higher fulfillment, is the cornerstone of my work. It's actually my life purpose. So as we dive into our conversation today, Thomas, let's not just think about adapting to change, but how we can define it, how we can shape it. After all, when we embrace our unique talents, our unique qualities, and strive for that personal growth, we're not just participants, but catalysts in this ever-changing business as unusual world. So let's get started, Thomas.
Yes, that's an excellent start. And it's really relevant to the times that we're in now with all of the change that's scaring people, the technological change. And we do tend to think of it as we're keeping up with things, but your perspective is a more active one, that we're actually shaping that. It's not just happening to us.
Absolutely.
Um,
Can't, at the end of the day, if stuff happens and we react to it, then stuff is just happening to us. We are not in control. I don't like not being in control, by the way. Control freak. We need to try and anticipate what's going on. Yeah, life knocks us down. We've had the pandemic and all the stuff that's come after it, and great resignation, great reshuffle, great whatever is happening at the moment. It's all really unusual. Now we can roll over and play dead and just wait for something to happen, or we can make something happen. We can decide what to do. We can decide our path, and we'll take the steps to go in that direction. That's what I believe we should do.
And this is something that you clearly know a lot about. You write books, but then you've got a long history of starting companies, managing and running companies, and you've seen technological changes over time. For instance, the journey to cloud and things like that, or the fact that SaaS became the norm for how we package software solutions. Could you talk a little bit about the changes that you've observed over time, and the role that kind of different companies, their strategic decisions, and how that's shaped over time? What do you have any insights on that, the kind of active formation of the future as we've traveled from the past till now?
That's a big question, Thomas. And I think we've only got half an hour. We're going to be here for days. I'm that old. It's been an interesting journey. Okay, just to give my age away, I am a baby boomer. And when I left school, there weren't any computers. So the year I left school was 1980. That was the year that the personal computer first came out, wasn't it? Right, from IBM. And I started a journey in becoming a bean counter, becoming an accountant. I kid you not, the very, very first accounting job I had was in an accounting practice, and we had big leather-bound ledgers. Great big. I mean, you'd see them in the older movies these days. I bet you there's probably a quill pen there somewhere. So when I got out of there and I went to a bigger company, a more interesting one, because it was a subsidiary of a brewery, and when you're 20-ish, in your early 20s, working for a brewery in those days when the laws were different and they actually gave you beer for lunch for free, it was different. It was a different environment. Anyway, doing about the accounting then, we used a mainframe computer. There were no personal computers in the office. None. There was a room full of comptrometers. Okay. Do you know what a comptrometer is, Thomas?
I do not.
Okay. And maybe most of the people listening don't, unless your grandparents or something. Okay. But basically, you go into this room and it'd be very noisy. Okay, so imagine like a calculator, those old-fashioned calculators. They're big ass things, probably as big as your laptop. Okay, except these were not electronic, they were mechanical. Okay, and the comptrometer is a person who'd take all the bits of paper, all the invoices and things, and they'd be adding things up using this manual calculator. Okay, with the little ribbon paper and stuff like that. And there'd be dozens and dozens of people in that room going, it's very noisy. And that's how they added things up. The rest of us, we didn't do that. We had ruled paper and fingers and things, and we counted. That was accounting 40, 50 years ago. It's back then. But we had access to a mainframe computer, and stuff was put on punch cards and things like that, very old-fashioned. I remember that there was, you like this, there was a very high-powered meeting that I was allowed to join, part of this very strategic group. We had directors of this company, and this is a publicly listed company. And we were considering whether we should invest in this fantastic new software, which would run on a little computer thing that we hadn't seen before. Okay. And this piece of software was called actually Lotus Symphony. That's these days it's manifested like, it's a bit like Microsoft Office. Okay, like nobody thinks about that. They just use it, or Google Apps, right? You just don't even think. I'm talking about, we spent weeks, months looking at this with all these high-powered people. That's was back then. So as my career progressed and life went on and technology advanced, I eventually worked for an American company called EDS, Electronic Data Systems. It used to be run by Ross Perot, a great American company. And they did what is called facilities management. So they did ERP systems, accounting systems, things like that, but they provided facilities management, otherwise known as a bureau service or a computer bureau. Okay, so this still sounds all very old-fashioned, using funny old words. Today, you'd call it cloud computing. Because that's all it is. That is all it is. Okay. To me, we've just gone full circle. We have gone full circle. Nothing has changed.
That's always been a little bit of a joke in the software world, that cloud computers is basically you're just working on a different server, and it's maybe a collection of servers. So in the bureau concept, is it multiple servers being managed, and then that's kind of
it is. It's a data center. It's just a big data center. Okay, they're big. It was big. Today, big as you probably have more power in your office at the moment. Those data centers, because everything has shrunk down now. And I guess the cloud world's changed, and obviously we have AWS and Google and the others, and just cloud is the way to go. You can just spin up a server that costs literally nothing. It really isn't much effort. It's relatively straightforward to do. So that's changed. That whole cloud computing thing has changed. Back then, projects were huge to implement an ERP system, a manufacturing system, or whatever system. It costs millions. And yet today, you can probably go online and pay, a cup of coffee or something and get something that is pretty much as powerful.
Yeah.
So that it's the costing has changed, the dynamics of it has changed, and it used to be the purview of only the really big companies had access to this technology. Now it's anybody has access to this technology.
Yeah, it's been a lot more democratized and the
Mm,
technology is
mm,
a lot cheaper. And so let's dive into that a little bit more, even because you've got a SaaS B2B product.
mm,
And I think
mm,
you guys are doing something interesting with it. And pricing and unique pricing plays a role.
mm.
Tell us about that.
Yeah, one of the other companies I'm involved in, we do assessments. Okay, a more old-fashioned word might be psychometric assessments, psychometric testing. So these are the sort of type of assessments, tests, whatever you want to call them. They're not a test because you can't fail them. People call them tests. They're the ones that we're probably more used to coming across when we're applying for a job. Okay. And in the past, again, the larger companies used to do them. And why did the larger companies used to do them? Because they're not cheap, they are expensive. So not only are they, there's a high fee for each one that you use, there's also for certain brands, you need to go through a lot of accredited training, and that isn't cheap, to be able to use the product and be able to interpret the result. Okay. And so the primary use of those products, there are really two primary uses. The first one is for recruitment, and the other one is for people development. Okay. To reframe it, you use these to find out about people because you want to make a people decision. You either want to recruit them, and recruitment can be an internal recruitment because you could maybe move it from department A to department B, or from one subsidiary to another. They're already employed somewhere in the group. You're just moving them into a role. It's still a people decision. Or you want
So,
to grow them, or you
so
want to
I
grow
want
them.
So I want to make sure that we're appreciating why we would be going in this direction. So psychometrics,
Mm,
that is the science of
mm,
testing people. And then so you're
mm.
doing it, is it that you're doing it in a more sophisticated way and scaling it? Is that the kind of
Okay,
thing
so
versus
so so
interviews?
yeah, okay. So it's not a replacement of interviews. The rule of thumb, if we want to keep it simple, is it should affect no more than about 30% of your decision. Now, what is the point of the psychometric? The psychometrics have been scientifically proven to be predictive. Okay, so imagine Thomas, that you got a team of 10 people. Okay, in a team of 10 people, typically you're going to have one or two star performers. You're not going to have more than that. There's only one or two real stars in that. And at the other end of the scale, there's maybe one or two people who say, why did we hire them? What are they still doing here? They're not on the A team. They're not even on the B team. And you don't even want them on the bench. You want them out. The rest are in the middle. They're strong, solid. They're the solid players. And that you need that. You need that. So when you're hiring someone, you don't want the bottom performer. Are you either looking for a star, or are you just looking for that strong, solid person who's, the bulk? What are you looking for? And so what do? You go and advertise a job, you get a bunch of CVs, you do a paper screening, you pull a few out, and you start interviewing them. And then you interview another one and another one. Guess what? If you, Thomas, had to interview 20, 30 different people, I can guarantee you will not interview them the same way. You're just not going to do it. And if you had to actually interview 100 people or 1,000 people, then it's getting a little bit tougher. All right. Now, with a psychometric, this is a B2B system, like it really doesn't matter how many people who take it. You could have 10,000 people apply to your company, and it's zero effort for you as a company to get people to do it. All right. So not only do you have their CV, you now have all of this psychometric data. So what's the point of the psychometric data? Again, let's go back to your team of 10, and you say, no, we need to hire another star player. Why? Because maybe they're getting a bit old or whatever, or you're going to move them to another role outside your team because they're going to go into another team into some higher position. All right. What are the qualities of our top players? What are they? So we can use the psychometrics to analyze our own people to find out what is it about them that makes them on the A team? And what is it about them that makes them in the B team? And what is it about them that makes them on the C team? So look at it another way. When you interview a person, All right. It's looking at the tip of the iceberg, all nice and white and shiny and beautiful. Okay. What's beneath the surface? So when we interview them, we're trying to find out what's really underneath the surface, what we can't see. And that is quite difficult to do, even for some experienced interviewers. And if you've got hundreds of people to interview, it's maybe not even humanly possible. Don't have enough time. So that's why we use psychometrics, and we'll pick out all the behaviors that are common of those star players. The star players have that, and the B team and the C team don't.
I love it. So
So
yeah, so you've determined the traits based upon
the traits, yes,
research.
yeah. Or to put it really simply, everybody is unique. All right. So you got kids, Thomas?
Yep, two.
Oh, great. Lovely, lovely. Okay. One of the toys that kids might have when they're really small, they're little toddlers, pegs and holes. Round ones go into the round hole. Square ones go into the square hole. Okay. We are people. We're all pegs. We are a certain shape. When we profile the job for the high performer or for the performers that we want, we're creating a shape. We're creating a hole. Just put the pegs in the right hole. That's it.
Okay, I love this. So so we're talking about a real need here. It's not easy to solve, and you're approaching it. You and your team are approaching this in a unique way. It's not just, oh, we want to hire the best people or we're going to weed out the work. You've actually profiled folks, and then you empower businesses to map the traits on to the kind of role that they're filling.
Absolutely.
I want a solid person for this who can do this type of work and be reliable, versus I need maybe a star to lead this team or something like that.
Yeah. And now the way that psychometric, and there are hundreds and hundreds of them around the planet, the way they tend to work is they measure a bunch of traits. Okay. We call them dimensions, behaviors, traits. Okay. And these are things that they need to be scientifically proven to be measurable. These are not made up things. So they're a bunch of very super intelligent PhD type who do all that kind of stuff. And a lot of these are, they measure, I know, 18 to 20 things. Okay. And but the approach is one size fits all. All right. But the thing is, when you map it on your performers, not all 20 are predictable. Maybe there are only 3 or 4 traits that are the key traits that really matter, because they're the ones that make those people different. The rest are, yeah, we all have them. Okay. Now, if we're only looking for those 3 traits, why don't we just measure those 3 traits and not the other 17? But it's a bit like, hey, you go into the shop and you got to buy the 3-course meal when you go to the restaurant, even though you only wanted the first course. You get the whole lot. So our assessments are super flexible. All right. Yes, we can give you the standard one out of the box. All right. But we give you all the tools. So let's really work it out. What's really predictable? What's really predictive of the performance that you want? So we find the really right people. Okay. Now, another way of looking at this is these traits are also linked to the culture of your company, because hard skills, soft skills, we can train people all that, but there are a whole load of other traits about people. Are they going to fit in? Are they going to fit into the organization? And we want to get that right before we bring them in and find out, oops, they don't fit, because that would be a wrong hire. That would be a mistake, our mistake as the company hiring them, not the applicant's mistake. It's the company's mistake for hiring the wrong person. Okay, so we want to hire the right person. Now, you can flip it around another way. If everybody was using assessments and everybody was using them properly, as I say, you can't fail an assessment. It's not a test. It's a matter of finding where is your best fit. Let's go back to the pegs and the holes. Where you will perform the best is where you fit perfectly. Go into the shop and buy an off-the-rack shirt, okay, and might be a bit tight here and there or wherever, right? Okay, but if it was tailored for you and it's the perfect shirt, it feels so good, so comfortable, you feel so great. It's the same with the job. When you fit really well, you got the right traits, okay, you fit with the culture, of course you're going to perform really well. Yeah.
And then you've in your team have translated this into a digital product. And
Mm.
one of the features of it, and it's one of
Mm.
my favorite concepts around strategy for digital products, is value
Mm.
innovation. And that's
Mm.
for the audience for who may not know, value innovation is you're not just delivering value and being like everybody else, and you're not being innovative for no reason. You're
Mm.
mixing the value and the innovation and creating new solutions in a better way. And one of the ways of achieving that is giving things at a price, something that's super valuable at a
Mm.
very strangely affordable
Mm.
price. And then everybody wins. The company that's selling it
Mm.
wins, the users win,
Mm.
everybody wins. And could you talk a little bit about the product that you and your team have built
Okay.
and how the pricing in the
Mm.
marketplace versus your pricing, and some ideas around that?
Yeah, there has been a bit of an evolution. When we first brought the product out, we thought, because we looked at other products on the market and all of the people involved in, in the startup, we'd all sold other products. Okay. And we know they're expensive. Now, some products out there, okay, I think a lot of your listeners are US based. It might be quite common to pay like $100 for one assessment. Okay. Now, if you've got 100 people applying for the job and you're going to shortlist 5 of them and you're only going to hire 1 of them, how many people are you going to assess? And if they're $100 a pop, you're not going to do 100 people. You might only do the 5. Okay. So that was one problem that we had to solve. The second problem is, okay, you're in the States. There is a purchasing power in the States. Okay. I'm talking to you today from Vietnam. The purchasing power in Vietnam is significantly lower than the States. So if we're going to use this product, maybe in the States, $100 it's expensive, but it's affordable. In Vietnam, we say that's ridiculous. That's a crazy price. It's unpayable. The purchasing power isn't there. However, this is a digital product. So why should it be priced the same as the States when the purchasing power here is less? So what we've done is, depending where your country is in the world, we've changed the price on a sliding scale based on the GDP per head of a country. So we group the whole world into about 12 different countries. So you may be paying $100 in the US because that's affordable in the US. The same product here in Vietnam may be only charging you $30, which is affordable. It's a relative scale. So that was one thing. So we made it affordable. And if you think about lots of developing countries around the world, you're making this great decision to use this product in New York, and say, oh, deploy it across Africa, Southeast Asia, all these developing countries where, $100 a month is like, wow, they're rich. So it's making it
Right.
more equitable. So that was one dimension. Now, the second dimension I mentioned was there is value to the company to hiring the right person. So using psychometrics to find the right person. And there is value to the individual, because even though you're applying for a job and you don't get it, the moment you apply and do the assessment, you get a personalized report to tell you. So it gives you a ton of information, probably more about you than you even know. And all you did was apply for the job. You've already got something out of the company you're applying to. All right. So going back to that first example, hey, we don't want to assess everybody because it's too expensive. So we changed our model to say, why can't you have unlimited usage of it? Why can't you have unlimited usage of it? So we've just this year changed the model, and you pay one subscription fee a month. And it really doesn't matter if you use 1 or 10 million of them. It's unlimited usage.
I love it. And that is business as unusual.
It's
What will
pretty
people
unusual, yeah.
now what will people get to and before we wrap up, let's touch on your latest book, Business as Unusual.
Okay.
What will readers get from that?
What will you get from that? The Business as Unusual came from, I wrote it during the pandemic. And during the pandemic here in Vietnam, we were in lockdown, which means I couldn't leave this apartment. I could not go out. I need a permit to go to the supermarket once a week. We're talking lockdown, all right? And during all the craziness happening around the world, country by country, businesses or business drying up, businesses disappearing, especially if you're in hospitality and people can't, there are no tourists, you can't even physically go into the building. They're going out, they're going bankrupt. And people were getting let off by the millions, right? And some people just wanted it all to be over. When this is over, we're going back to normal. It'll be business as usual. Or people say, oh, it's the new normal. That's the way it is. I thought, oh, I'm sick of this. This is rubbish. There is no going back to normal. There is no business as usual. That's never going to happen. Okay. It's all unusual. So it's really getting me more and more angry about it. So I thought it's just business as unusual. And then looking around, even since the pandemic supposedly is over, then we had are we working from home? Are we working from the office? Are we hybrid? Do we have to go in one day? It's, people started resigning. They started moving. It's all the craziness just carried on and on. It's all unusual. Now, during all of this, unfortunately, hundreds of millions of people have been completely disrupted in their work life. All right. If you're a business owner, your business has been disrupted, and more so depending which country that you are in. You may be okay in the States, tremendous government support, payroll support, and things like that. In other countries, zero. Like zero. You don't even get $1. You get nothing. So unless you got the money, you're going under. So there are many people who lost their jobs, and there were zero prospects in that industry that they might have spent however long they spent in. And they have to pivot to something else. And even if you didn't lose your job and you've been working at home on and off for a year or however long, and the office is supposedly open, you're supposed to go back. We've been so taken away from that old environment that it's not necessarily what we want anymore. Okay. And the only problem is we don't actually know what we want. So we go back to the office and it's not the same. I don't like it. I'm going to move. So we move somewhere else and I don't like that either. And I'm finding that people, it really doesn't matter what level they are, unfortunately, there are too many people who are like lost. The analogy I used to give is that pre-pandemic, yeah, we go into the office, we sit in our little cube, we get on that hamster wheel, we go running around in circles, going nowhere. And then the pandemic came along, they threw away the hamster wheel, they threw away my cube, they threw away the office. And I come back, I don't know, there's no hamster wheel, I'm trapped in a maze, I'm still going nowhere. How do I get out of this? That emptiness, maybe my confidence is gone, my belief in myself is gone. I just don't know what to do. My whole value seems to have been vaporized by this horrible whatever's going on. And that's not a nice place to be. So anyway, I visualized it into a roadmap so you can get out of that maze. That's what I've done.
A roadmap for looking at the situation in a different way, where we're just in this changing world, and how do you find meaning for yourself and what you do in that?
Absolutely. I've packed it full of stuff, nearly everything I know, or probably everything I know. So there's stuff in there like, I know what works for me, it's this. But okay, I tried 10 other things to find out that this one worked for me, so I'll give you all 11. Pick and choose what works for you. We're different. We are not the same. And so what I've done is, as I work in pictures, I visualize things. So I visualize life, okay, the life's journey, because life is a journey, as a castle. It's a castle, all right? And you can just imagine now, Thomas, castle. What does a castle look like to you? There are buildings in the castle, and each building has a function. So I have the Tower of Purpose, which is all about your life goals, your life purpose, your legacy. Of the Tower of Mind, it's how you think, it's how you show up emotional intelligence, if you want to call it that. It's how you learn. All right. We have the tower of life force. Life force is like the spark in you that keeps you alive. That's focused on your herbs, your health, your energy, your rest, your balance, your stress. Okay. And so I go building by building what the building means in this whole journey of life. All right. So why are you an architect? You're going to build your own castle. It's your castle. You build it any way that you want. So every single brick that you are laying, you are placing it wherever you want. Okay, so you want to focus more on your mind and how you show up and how you interact with other people. Wonderful. Okay, focus on that. If you really want to be thinking about what is your life purpose and work out what that is, because I knew what it was before the pandemic, but I've left that industry and now I need to find a new path. How do I find that? Because we need alignment with that life purpose to really get that fulfillment. Otherwise, everything we do is and potentially going in the wrong direction. So this is what I've done. That's just how I think.
Yeah, no, it's great. Rick Yvanovich on taking an active role in shaping the world around us. Serial entrepreneur, book author of Business as Unusual. Rick, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you very much, Thomas. I really enjoyed being on your show. And as we close, I just want everybody to remember, we are not just participants in this ever-changing world, but you're architects shaping the course of your own life, your own career, and the world around you. I encourage you all to embrace change, embrace the unusual, and define it, shape it. Don't just react and adapt to it. Be the catalyst in your own business as unusual world. The transformation starts with you, and I'm really eager to hear about your journey. So feel free to reach out to me. Now, go forth and build your own castle.
Awesome. And wrapping up, Rick, where can people find you?
Best place to find me is on LinkedIn. That's the
Gotcha.
easier. And just, you can Google my name, and strangely and unusually enough, there is only one person on the planet with this name, and that's me.
Thank you so much, Rick. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Thank you, Thomas.